And when I handed them a bottle and said, "This is my Bach flower blend for manifesting generators," they just went, "Whoa." Like it was like they knew immediately what it was for. And I didn't have to, it was like the a curtain fell down between me and the people I wanted to talk to.
Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we blend rock solid tips with a little bit of magic. I'm your host, Renee Bowen, a life and a business coach, professional photographer, Diet Coke lover, and mom of 3 grown kids. Here to walk you through all the ins and outs of identity-based marketing and how to run a business that feels like freedom. Today, my guest is Tracy Poizner, and this is going to be a really interesting and fascinating episode for a lot of you guys because we are talking about something that you might not have a lot of experience with. We're talking about 2 different things and how she's basically combined them. So Tracy is a 25 plus year homeopath, and she is also a 6'2" sacro MG, if you know anything about human design. And she has an obsession for archetypes in consciousness. And she created something called the Space-Time Alchemy Human Design Series, which is a collection of Bach flower blends crafted for each of the 5 energy types of human design. And they are designed to increase self-insights, accelerate deconditioning, and make it easier to follow strategy and authority in real life. So if you know anything about human design, you're going to love this already. If you've know anything about Bach Flower Remedies, like if you know anything about those 2 things, you're going to be right in target here. If you don't know anything about those things, we're going to teach you a little bit about both. And then we're going to dive into how she came up with this amazing idea and how it just basically sort of downloaded and the process for that and how her business is actually changing because of it. And it's also unexpected for her. So it's a great lesson also in following the breadcrumbs, opening yourself up, being open and being curious about new possibilities, even when you have an established business model. So there's a lot of really fun insights business-wise in this as well. And there's a lot of human design and flower remedy talk and why energetic medicine can be so powerful. I personally have been using flower remedies for over 30 years. So this was like a really cool topic for me. And she actually sent me one of her blends that I've been using because I'm a generator in human design. And I have liked it so far. So I will report back after I've used it for a few weeks and let you guys know what I think, as well as her, because she's really interested to find out. And I just think that you are going to get a lot out of this. It, like I said, it's a little bit of business. It's a little bit of woo. It's a little bit of, energetic medicine. You're going to learn something, and you're also hopefully going to walk away with some really great insights. So let's dig in. Okay, Tracy. So my audience is probably not super familiar with the topics that we're going to be diving into today, but I am, and I'm really excited to talk to you because like you're kind of melding 2 of my favorite things, really. But we're going to start with flower remedies because I know a lot of my listeners probably aren't really familiar with what they are, and you've been in this space a long time. I mean, obviously, you know more about this than anybody else. So let's start there. Like, let me get a little bit of your background and then explain to us what flower remedies really do, what they are and what they're for.
Sure. So I've been a homeopath for about 28 years, practicing classical homeopathy. I'm all about vibrational medicine. That's the thing about homeopathy is that there's no stuff in it. That's why it gets such a bad rap. How can it possibly work? Because
Yeah.
there's no, there's no molecular active ingredient. And the answer to that is that it's just a transfer of information, right? It's just informational medicine. It's vibrational medicine. So Bach flowers, Edward Bach was a medical doctor in the 1920s, 30s in England. He was a bacteriologist. He was a researcher. He developed all kinds of interesting protocols. By pure chance and coincidence, he ended up getting placed as the bacteriologist at the Royal London Homeopathic Hospital, which is a normal hospital that does surgeries and all the things, but by preference, the medicines that they use would be homeopathic where possible. And so he knew nothing about that, but it doesn't matter. They need a bacteriologist like everyone else. And as he started working there, he became intrigued and he started learning about homeopathy and eventually moved his big system into a homeopathic method. So he was kind of a pioneer of what we now would call like the microbiome, like studying the gut flora of the
Hmm.
microbiome. That he was the like I'm sure he's the first guy who was studying and writing about that. And he developed a whole protocol around that with homeopathic remedies that were made from gut bacteria for healing chronic disease. That's what they were for. But even when he was doing that, he was super into personality typing. And he noticed that people who needed different ones of these remedies that he had made had noticeably consistent personality types as each other. So that was like on the radar, even from the 1920s. And he eventually got led into studying flowers as the starting material for medicines instead of poop, which, he just decided I'm done using like toxic products. A lot of homeopathy is made from arsenic and mercury and sulfur
Yeah.
and belladonna, right? They were like very things that are very poisonous, which become fantastic medicines when they are attenuated or I mean, we even do this with vaccines. You take a
Yeah.
polio vaccine, you're taking an attenuated, a highly diluted, dead form of the virus.
Hmm.
So this is well known across every kind of medicine that there is. But his thing was that he really, really wanted to bring forward the idea that all disease originates at the energetic level. So energy being emotion, like emotion, energy in motion. It's not that it's in your head or that it's psychosomatic, but the first signs of anything being distorted in your system are a feeling that something is not right inside before there's, an infection, before there's a fever, before there's a tumor. It's a feeling if
Hmm.
you're attuned to it, of course. And so he wanted medicines that were about addressing the emotional realm mainly. He ended up with these flower essences, which are not at all made like homeopathic medicines. They're really completely different in how they're made and how they're prescribed, but there's no stuff inside. There is no sap or fiber or chlorophyll or alkaloids or tannins. There's no stuff from the plant medicine. It's only information.
Yeah. The essence, right? The flower
The
essence.
essence of the flower, the healing essence of it, it does not belong to any of that stuff. The best analogy I can make is a book, right? The knowledge that you gain from a book or the tools that you might acquire or the self-awareness that you gain from reading a book does not rest on the fiber of the paper and it's not about the ink. Right?
Hmm.
Like you don't need the fiber or the ink. Those things are carrying the information. But the what you get from reading a book is not, you're not chewing and eating and digesting the paper and the
Right.
ink.
Right. Yeah.
So these things are made literally by taking the flower petals, putting them in spring water in a bowl in the direct sunlight for a few hours, and then you take away the plant material and that's your medicine. And now, like in the last 10 or 15 years, we have a really good explanation from physics about how this is possible
Hmm.
and why it works. I'm not going to go into that, but it's very easy to explain how the ultraviolet radiation is powering a separation of positive and negative ions in the water, and the negative ions are turning into a crystalline structure that, like silica crystals, which are powering your computer and mine,
Hmm.
water crystals are very, very good at storing and transmitting information. So it's just a thing that works. He probably didn't have the tools for explaining why it works, but we sure know that it does. You know that it does. You told me
Yeah.
that you've been using flower
Hmm.
essences a long time.
Yeah. I have. I was first introduced to them as well as homeopathy probably about 30 years ago after I moved to Los Angeles I forget exactly how I fell into, probably someone told me about it, a friend of mine, and I still carry Rescue Remedy in my
Mm.
purse to this day. Like that's my go-to. I tell people about this all the time, and I'm really glad, like I would give it to my kids as well when they
Yeah,
were younger. It's yeah, like I 100%. And we went to a homeopath as a family for years and years when they were younger. So
great.
I'm fully on board with all of this. I totally, I know it works. I've seen it. I've felt it.
Yeah.
And I just know that it can be, it can be hard to explain, right? It's not saying that it's like one or the other either necessarily. Like it's just this or that. I mean, like I also, I take medicine and you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
when you
Like
need
it's,
antibiotics, you take them, right? It's not,
yeah,
you're not supposed to, it's not supposed to be it's not a, religious dogma or something. You have different
exactly.
tools and you use them when you need them. If you need a bone to be set or stitches or something, if you need a surgery, you that's great that we have those things, but Western medicine is not great at dealing with chronic disease.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of chronic disease is driven by energetic disturbance,
Right.
psychological and energetic disturbance. And we could call it trauma if you
Mm-hmm.
want to use that word, which means something different to everybody, right? But
It's how it gets stored, right?
it
Like,
gets, of course, it gets stored. And that unless it gets processed properly in the way that you need to do it, which is like processing your feelings instead of offloading them
yeah.
with distraction or any of the, addiction or projecting, all the things that we do to try to get away from our uncomfortable feelings instead of letting them flow through us and be done. That's, we're structured in
Mm-hmm.
this way. We're designed, unfortunately, on some level to struggle with that, which is what's so fantastic about human design, is
Yeah.
that it's really a roadmap, like a personalized roadmap for for removing these blockages that we have stored.
Oh yeah, for sure. I know my audience has heard me speak about human design on here quite a bit. I'm not certified in it, but I use it in my own daily life. I use it in my coaching. I know enough, right? And I'm
Yeah.
always learning about it. And that's what I find super exciting about it too, is that it's such a huge topic too. I feel like I'm always sort of discovering something there. And I have found it to be such an awesome, like more powerful, I think, than any other self-awareness tool. Like it is so robust and right on the money usually.
Yeah.
And I love that you are sort of melding the two. So talk to us a little bit about how that happened, because you've actually mapped flower essences to the 5 human design energy types. So
Right.
how did you arrive at that, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was another kind of download. I mean, my initial, I have to say that as a homeopath, I was not very enamored with Bach flowers. Like, to me, they seemed like really basic, kind of entry level
Mm-hmm.
use of energy medicine. Very simple, very basic. There's only 38 of these, and there are thousands and thousands of homeopathic medicines. I always kind of thought that, I mean, Bach died pretty young. He was 50, and oh, well, if he'd lived longer, there would be more flowers. I knew nothing. And I also just knew that they're really good medicine for what we call householders, like for people to use at home. Yeah, rescue remedy, everybody knows about
Yeah.
rescue remedy, and it's just kind of becomes so basic that, as a snobby homeopath, I just thought this was like some low level kind of like the poor cousin of homeopathy.
Yeah.
I had had some really good experiences over the years with clients, but not in a way that made me turn my head and say, oh boy, I should be using that more. It was just like, oh, that was a lucky break. That worked really well as I wanted it to. I started studying about 4 or 5 years ago archetypal consciousness, the
Okay.
archetypes of new earth consciousness, which if you talk about woo, like I'm the most unwoo person, dash of woo is all I could ever take. I was a real medical model type of homeopath,
Okay.
like it was a form of medicine for me. I took it very seriously, and it was not about spiritual anything. It was
Hmm.
just an alternative to pharmaceutical medicine. And when I got into this, studying about consciousness and thinking about, self-transcendence and experiencing unity consciousness, like this was so unexpected for me. It was not a road that I ever expected to be on, but I got really, really interested in it. And at one moment, I just had one of those spontaneous downloads where you just get kind of
Hmm.
hit the forehead with an idea that the archetypes of consciousness go together with the Bach flowers, which are very archetypal, although I would never have said that before I had this kind of epiphany. As I started studying them, it was like, of course they go together. I mean, they're really each archetype, each flower is an emotional archetype. And this is what Bach was trying to tell us, that each flower carries a specific emotional frequency. So it's not a chemical, it's not reacting with your biochemistry the way antidepressants or anxiety medicine does. It's restoring a memory of your correct designed frequency because it's
Hmm.
in there. I mean, it's not applying something new. It brings you back to who you are without that distortion that you
Hmm.
experience as depression or anxiety or whatever it might be. So he said there are 38 emotional centers of the brain, and there is one flower for each of them. So he never mapped the brain, so to speak. It's not a, there's no map of like your cranium and where these different areas
Right.
are. But he said there are 38 centers. And I think there was probably something numerological involved. He started out with seven, which corresponded to the seven chakras,
Right.
and then he added another 12 that corresponded loosely to the astrological signs. And then that made 19, and he had another 19 to mirror them. So there was some numerological background to that he didn't leave us because he burned all his notes.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
yeah, he worked apparently. Like I used to think, oh yeah, if he'd lived longer, there would be more flowers. But he studied 2,000, more than 2,000 flowers
Wow.
and whittled it down to these 38 that had to be there. And all the others were not overkill, but they were copying already what
Right.
another one was doing. Like it was redundant.
Hmm.
These 38 do everything. They cover every possible sort of emotion or a belief that a person could possibly have.
Oh, I have a question about that
Yeah.
if you know, because I find that fascinating. Do we still have access to plentiful amounts of those to this
What?
day, or the
Of the,
flowers that he mapped? Like, you know how
we don't
like I
know what
just
they were
wonder.
because he burned all his notes.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah. Like he had an assistant who later wrote his biography and kept his sort of office going, if you will, kept producing the flowers.
yeah, because it's still
But
made to this
but he
day.
he threw everything into the fire. He didn't want he didn't want someone to come along after he was gone and say, "Oh, here's the unpublished material and let's incorporate this." It was
Mm,
like, "This is my system is complete. It's finished." And that's something that really, really attracted me to this system as opposed to Australian bush flowers, or I mean, there's so many kinds of flowers. Other people I've spoken to have told me about different, flowers in America, North American flower essences that they're using that are fantastic. And there's nothing, I mean, I think every flower has an essence that will do something
hmm.
for it. But there was something about the idea of the closed nature of this system that really, really appealed to me because it matches the closed nature of the archetypal system I was studying. So again, Carl Jung talked about, maybe 150 archetypes, right? And
Yeah.
Carolyn Mace went through all of these many, many dozens of archetypes. And the system that I use has 18 archetypes.
Okay.
And that's all there are. And the only ones I'm interested in using are the four shadow archetypes. So with four archetypes and 38 flowers, I combine the archetypes together and I combine flowers together to create a specific energy signature for a person to bring them back into their own design, essentially.
Right.
And so using my Bach flower blends for human design was, I said a minute ago, it was another kind of download. I was at a 3-day seminar in New York with about 50 people, and I had brought my flower essences with me because I was going to do a master class of my own while I was in the city that I ended up having to cancel. And so I was sitting there with a case of glass dropper bottles and my set of Bach flowers, and I couldn't stop thinking about, like, I was totally distracted from what I was supposed to be paying attention to by the idea that I had to get rid of these bottles because I'm not carrying them on the plane back to Toronto from New York. And I thought, like, what am I going to do with them? I can't throw them in the garbage. But who wants glass dropper bottles? Like, where am I going to get rid of these things? And all of a sudden it was like, like that light that shines down on you and said,
Hmm.
I make some blends. And I knew the energy type of all the people in the room because each of us got asked that question in our,
Oh,
like, to put in our bio. It was meant as trivia, like, what's your
yeah.
Enneagram? What's your human design type? And I knew that I'm a manifesting generator. And, I sort of had an idea of, like, oh, I'll go and find all the manifesting generators in the room and introduce myself or something. And I just thought, I'll make a blend for manifesting generators. And I knew nothing about it, only that I was one, but I had to quickly go online and figure out, like, according to my system of working with Bach flowers, what do I need to know about somebody? And
Right.
I've only ever done this like one-to-one before. So now I'm sort of treating the manifesting generator type as a person
Hmm.
who has these kind of difficulties. Like, what is the not self of the manifesting generator? What what's the emotion that you're likely to fall into when things are not going your way? What are the things that you get tripped up with over and over again, like the triggers in
Right.
your world? And so I prepared a blend and I handed it out to the people there who were manifesting generators. And I had this really interesting response for me because now I've spent a couple of years trying to explain to people what I do, that I use Bach flowers to, help accelerate the journey of personal evolution, basically, that it gets you where you're going faster because you get to have some kind of quick realizations about yourself when we get these, like, limiting beliefs out of the way. And previously people would say, "Oh, that sounds really interesting." You know, and when I handed them a bottle and said, "This is my Bach flower blend for manifesting generators," they just went, "Whoa." Like, it was like they knew immediately what it was for. And I didn't have to, it was like the a curtain fell down between me and the people I wanted to talk to help them understand what it's actually for. What are you going to get
Right.
when you take this? And just saying you're a manifesting generator, here's a blend of Bach flowers for you. It was like, oh wow. It was like the instant recognition. Like, I know what I need and I know that this is going to do it for me.
That is so cool. And you've reported, like, I think 35, you said 35 to 88% improvement in the not self patterns, right? Within like
Yes.
3 to 6 weeks. So people are reporting that they
People are
feel more aligned.
reporting, yeah, I enrolled about 28 people in a, like, beta test because I
Hmm.
wanted to know, like, is this a real thing or is it just a cool idea? Like, does it actually work? Yes, it actually works. So the 4-week sort of average results are 51 to 71%.
Oh, wow.
That is improvement in the top 3 things. So I had everybody fill out, this is how I got the data. I made like a self-assessment score sheet and everybody filled it out before starting. So there were 10 metrics, 10 things that I thought these are, in my case, these are manifesting generator characteristics that also match the characteristics of the flowers that I put in the blend. So I'm coming at it from 2 directions.
Hmm.
And then they would fill it out again at week 1 and week 2 and week 4 and maybe at week 6 if they went on that long. So a lot of people fell off the wagon and didn't give me the data back. I mean, that's understandable. I did the best that I could to send reminders out or whatever, but it's a little bit like herding cats. It was not
Right.
absolutely easy to get the answers, but what I did was I took the top three things that they had rated at the beginning as being the most troublesome, like the most intense or the most frequent, the most interfering, with my
Right.
life, my business, whatever. And I tracked those. How did those three things change? So at 4 weeks, the average is 57, actually, 57 to 71% across all of the different types. But what was cool is that when I look at the like week by week, the week one results, even though like one person had 80% to shift in 1 week, but typically, normally it was around in the 20% range.
Hmm.
And by week six, if they stayed to week six, it was over 70%. So you really could tell that the amount of change was very clearly correlated to how long people stayed on the protocol.
That's very cool.
It was really cool. It blew me away actually. And as I interviewed people and I did some, video interviews to ask, people were saying things like, I want to feel like this forever. Or
Mhm.
all of a sudden I don't have to justify my own self-worth anymore. Or I can't imagine saying yes to something I don't want to do. Why would I ever do that? When that was her big problem. Like that
Right.
she's lived 50 years with this, you know, I always get sucked into doing something I don't want to do. And suddenly now she's standing there saying, what was that all about? Why would anybody ever do that? It helps you. It's not a new identity. It's who you really are
Hmm.
that's been covered up with something that you thought you needed to be.
Well, it's all supportive, it sounds like to me anyway, of the shadow work, right? Of
Yes.
all of it. And I mean,
Yeah.
even outside of human design, but human design is just such a great framework to understand yourself, I think. And so I think that if you're interested in that, like if people are like listening to this, for example, and they maybe had not really been into like either of these, like homeopathy or flower remedies or even human design, they're kind of like, okay, but you find yourself sort of wondering like, oh, okay, I'm kind of interested in finding out a little bit more about that. I feel like we are meant to, hear what we're meant to hear when we're meant to hear it, basically. And if that is something that, if you're listening and you've been like struggling, let's say, because there's a lot of things in general that creative business owners are going to be dealing with. A lot of it has to do with, fear of raising prices, fear of putting themselves out there, showing up fully as themselves. And human design in and of itself is such a great, like I said, a great resource and tool to use to step more into your alignment. Because, like you said, it's not like you're becoming somebody different. You're just returning to you,
Yeah.
essentially. And that's the work of bringing the unconscious conscious, what I do in coaching. All, what I mean? It's all of that same sort of work, I believe. And it feels like to me that your blends for the five energy types, because it's not just for the manifesting
Right.
generators, you have it for all five energy types. Like,
Correct. Yeah.
right. Because I have the generator one. And I feel like it's just a great supportive tool for people who are interested in that, who are doing that work, who are really, wanting to learn more about themselves, to learn more about how they respond, all of these different things. And I think it's really interesting to me that in particular, people are reporting like over time that it is increasing. Okay, so where would you suggest that people sort of start with all of this, right? Like I just said, if somebody's sort of interested in everything that we've been talking about, I kind of wanted to touch really quickly on as well. Like I just mentioned, a lot of my audience deal with these sort of like these fears, right?
Yeah.
That's all stuff that homeopathy, flower remedies in and of itself helps.
Right.
And I know you touched a little bit on that as far as like the how, but let's see if we can sort of like not necessarily explain it, because a lot of it, like you said, can't be fully explained because it is a vibrational, emotional thing. So what is happening when we decide to go down that path, when we decide to, do a protocol like this?
I designed this to be a really easy on-ramp into the whole, into that whole world. So somebody only needs to know their type, which you can obviously go online to any, geneticmatrix.com or any of the other websites that give a free body graph, and you can find out your energy type. That's not difficult to do, and you don't need to know anything more than that. You would come in and take a look at the blend that is for the type that you find out that you are. So on the website where I'm on my sales page, there's a drop down menu for each type, and it says, this is for you if you feel X, Y, and Z. So you just have a look at those things and see whether that corresponds to the type that you know that you are. I'll say that there were a couple of people who offered to be beta testers, because they're like wanted to do me a favor, because there are people who know me who turned out not to be really good candidates for this because those things didn't really match who they actually
Mm,
are. And so then the flowers were not quite targeting, like there are some people who've done a lot of personal work already.
mm-hmm.
And they might say, that would have been me 7 years ago, and that's not who I am anymore. And I heard that from some people. So fair enough. Like there's just no way that I'm going to create something that's for absolutely everybody. But that's the first step, to like check out the drop down menu and see whether those things relate. And then when you get the remedy, you're going to get this list of 10 metrics that you're going to rate. And you don't have to do anything else than that. You're just going to say, from on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do I feel disappointed when somebody doesn't appreciate my contribution? On a
Mm.
scale of 1 to 10, how frustrated do I get if I feel ready to go and I'm waiting for other people to catch up, right? You just answer the questions. And then as you're going to take the blend, there's a series of releasing statements. And these are really, it's like a two channel approach of the conscious part and the unconscious part. So obviously the flowers are working behind the scenes, on your unconscious frequency level energetic self. And then the releasing statements are like reverse affirmations, is what I call them. So, right, we're not affirming, we're not stating an aspirational identity like I am calm and peaceful or I am strong and powerful. You're not stating something that you want to integrate. You're saying this blend is for my tendency to fall into bitterness. Every time I'm confronted with not being appreciated for what I contribute, or this is for the shame I feel around having a different way of managing my energy and needing so much more rest than other people. This remedy is for my tendency to feel angry when I can't get things to go the way I want them to be. Whatever the statement might be, you're saying something that represents a feeling that is running in your body now. And that allows the blend to have something to sort of rub up against, as it were, metaphorically. It's like a targeting system. And because there are 10 releasing statements for each different ones for each of these 5 energy types, they have to be different ones because we're dealing with completely different design. The people who are taking the blends are encouraged to choose any number of these and whichever ones they want. And it's like a private combination lock, like you have 10 possible things. You might pick one, you might pick seven, you might pick three. Every single person is going to be different. And that really lets it individualize to your actual problems and not hypothetically what you might feel that's the same as someone else. So you really pick the ones that are meaningful for you, and that's the conscious piece. And then at the same time, we have the unconscious piece, like go in the back door and deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Let yourself in the back door. I don't know what you're doing back there, but this is what I want you to deal with.
So
And
that's how it's more customized, like you said, for each individual person
yeah,
as much as
and
possible.
I didn't even know that it was going to do that when I set it up. It's that I'm I'm working with a colleague whose name is Sonal Singhal. She's a brilliant expert about Bach flowers. She happens also to be a civil engineer in Abu Dhabi, but we've been meeting every week to work very deeply on each of the flowers and to develop this set of releasing statements. And we have a lot of them. Like there are, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 for each flower of the
Mm-hmm.
38 flowers. So it's kind of taking a long time. But I just wanted to include some of them because they're so powerful. And as I, did this beta test and was trying to understand how I could explain the level of results that I was getting, which were, I thought, oh, if I could say that there's like 25 or 30% improvement in a month, that would be great, but it's like blowing me away. And I think that part of it is that I inadvertently figured out how to customize the process to each person. And the important part for me, if we can just talk about like business plan for a moment, like as a business owner, this is turning out to be a way for me to scale what I do, which otherwise I have to do one to one.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. Like, this is a whole different avenue for you now, kind of.
Totally. Like I
Yeah.
never imagined having a like product arm of my business. I was teaching this. That's what I thought the other end was going to be. Like I'm a practitioner. I see people one to one and I teach other people how to use my system. So I've done a couple of group containers, uh, in this methodology, and I put 6 people through a year-long program to kind of apprentice with me. And I thought that's what it was going to be, more teaching
Hmm.
and more one-on-one and more teaching and more. And then suddenly it was like, there is a way for me to do pretty high level work with total strangers that I've never met.
That is so cool. Like that piece of it right there, because you are so many things just popped into my mind. I have to like organize them, but basically, this was your thing, right? Your specialty, your
Yeah,
expertise, like you said, and you were even teaching it. And you did not even mean to go down this road, right?
not
But
at
like
all.
you just kept following the breadcrumbs and you kept being open to possibility. And then you found yourself at this conference, this event, and you're like, well, what am I going to do with this? And you just sat in curiosity and you allowed things to unfold and be in your own alignment so that you could hear it and listen to it and receive it. And then you followed, you took action and
Yeah.
did something. It's like everybody listening, really, there's a lot of like examples here just in general for paying attention, being intentional with the thoughts, and then also just like being in alignment enough to be open to do it and then taking the action on it. And so now you find yourself in this completely different space. Like you said, like it's product based is a whole different ball
Yeah.
game, 100%. But you're able, like you said, not just to scale it for your own business, which is fantastic, but you can help so many other people.
Well, exactly. And that was always very present for me as a thought. Like as soon as I had this system, and it took a hot minute to get this all sorted. I mean, it certainly took more than a year to
Right. I can
to
imagine.
turn it into something. But my thought was, I need to get this out into the world because I don't want this. I had a very dear friend who had developed a really beautiful system around Touch for Health, which is a applied kinesiology muscle testing system that already exists, but she had added a really rich kind of framework to that. And very sadly, she died quite suddenly of cancer and, didn't get the book out and didn't get the thing done. And it's gone. And I said, life is short and it's unpredictable. And I need to get this out into the world. I don't want to be a special snowflake with a great idea. And I just thought it was all going to be about teaching. And how can I get in front of more people? How can I teach more people? How can I, attract more other like healers and coaches and practitioners who would want to use this. And then all of a sudden this came up and it was like I had people, among the testers were people who had been my clients of Bach flowers
Mm-hmm.
saying things like no shade, but this blend was way more effective than anything I've ever had from you. Like, and that's really a testament to human design
Yeah.
because it gives me a kind of laser insight into someone. And we're not even talking about profile and strategy and authority here. It's just the energy type is so precise about the way someone is living their life that when I give them these other pieces so that they can individualize, like, what part of this story is me, right?
Hmm.
What part of projector that you've outlined here? Because they don't even have to know what a projector is. They just have to read the statements and say, which of these is hitting me hard? Like,
Yeah,
oh, that's me.
that's really important is because like a lot of people, because I'm going to put the information below for people to go check this out. And that's kind of what I wanted to make sure people could understand is that you don't need to know a whole bunch about human design or really even
You don't
that
need
you
to know
get it.
anything about it.
Yeah.
You just need to read the things and say yes or no. Is this a big deal for me?
Hmm.
And like wherever you say, oh shit, that's so me, then that is where the blend is going to work for you because it meets you where you are. That's the wonderful thing about Bach flowers in general, about this kind of vibrational medicine. It's going to keep meeting you where you are,
Right.
wherever you are on your journey. So this is for total beginners and it's for people who have done a lot of work because different things come up in the profile of a manifesting generator or whatever. You are going to bump up against different elements of it at different points in your journey. And my highest goal in using Bach flowers at all is to expand their range of action out of just the world of emotional healing and into spiritual evolution, because that's what is interesting to me at this moment of my life. It's
Yeah.
about expansion and potential and limits. Or I have what they call the left angle cross of limitation, which is a funny thing
Hmm.
because my own podcast is called Limitless, and I didn't know anything about that when I named my podcast. So that's a bit of
I love
synchronicity
that.
there.
It's
But
so interesting, just as a side note, that you mention the incarnation cross, because I'm doing some work with a group right now, a group of photographers specifically. It's a small group, and we're walking through messaging and marketing. But for me, this is all identity work. And so, all that to say, like, I've created a whole system for people to first, we start with their purpose and their why, and then we kind of build from there. And as we're going through it, like I have people do it themselves, we work on it together in coaching, and then I have them go look at their human design incarnation cross. And it is always right on the money. They're like, wait, we could have just done this. And I'm like, no, but I wanted you to see. I want you to see that you already had it. You already knew it. It was there.
yeah,
Right. But like, I really believe that the process of discovery is really important too, just because it
yeah,
really solidifies your messaging. But I just wanted to just throw that out there for people because I think it's very interesting and cool. That's happened to me as well. Like I've gone and like, read and done the research about mine. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm on the right path. I'm doing it. So it's another like layer of
yeah.
confirmation. So I love that you mentioned that too. Yeah.
My sort of signature aha moment about my own like discovery of human design is that I have spent the last 8 or 9 years, 9 or 10 years maybe, as an entrepreneur now,
Hmm.
after 20 years before that as a homeopath, which is being an entrepreneur as well.
Yeah.
But I did, it was a very local business and I didn't think about it as being an entrepreneurial journey. Since I've been working online, I have changed horses a number of times into different things. I started out working as a life coach for women who are stepmothers. And then
Mm.
I moved into being a coach, a parenting coach for fathers who are experiencing parental alienation after divorce. And from there, I moved into like being a Bach flower coach. Had a lot of different business coaches trying to rein me in to like pick a lane, like just
Yeah.
pick something and stay there and do it. And since learning that as a manifesting generator, I am designed to change horses.
Yeah.
That is my path. It gave
Yeah.
me so much permission to just be me. and
100%.
not beat myself up about like, oh my God, can I really do this? Am I really going to drop what I was already doing and go and do something else? Or like I've just had to face that so many times and sort of feeling traces of shame about like, should I be doing this or not, you know? And just be having a sacral authority to say, when I feel that feeling of like, that's a full body yes, I don't say no to it, even if it doesn't make any sense. And whereas before I would really fight with my
Yeah, you would
logical
override
mind,
it.
you know,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
totally overriding those kind of feelings. And now I'm just like, I don't have to explain that to anybody.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to. Like,
Yeah.
this is correct for me. It is the correct next step. And it might not look like it right away. And it might not meet other people's criteria of the way things are supposed to go. That's exactly what happened to me when I went to New York for this conference. Didn't make any sense at all. Cost me a like crap ton of money. And I could have sat there saying like, oh my gosh, was this a good investment? What am I doing here? What I was doing there was to be in the right place at the right time to have this
Yeah.
all fall in because this is my entire business model fell in from the sky in that exact place. I had to be geographically in that place at that moment for that to happen. And that's the whole story. So
I love it.
it's really been a gift from that point of view for me to recognize aspects of myself as not being wrong.
Right.
They
Yeah,
just don't
no.
match the way other people do it, and they're not supposed to because
Every Manny Gen that because usually when people come into coaching, like I tell them, I'm going to pull your chart. I'm going to use this in our coaching. I'm going to explain it to you. Don't worry about it. Most of my coaching students don't know anything about human design, but they're interested in it. They're like, okay, cool. And then I'd start talking to them, but especially everybody was always has an aha moment. Like they're like, okay, how are you getting in my head? Like, I'm
right.
like, it's human design. I'm not psychic.
Yeah.
And but it's the Manny Gens really who are like, wait, what do you mean? Like, so I can't, it's okay for me to have all of these ideas. And it's like, yeah, that's how you're designed. Like maybe not all of them are for you either. Maybe you're the visionary and you're just, you know what I mean? Like my husband was a great example of that too, because I'm a generator, but he's a Manny Gen. And I've always said this about him. I was like, he's really the most creative person I've ever met. Like he is all right brain. He can act, he can write, he can direct, he can edit, he can draw. He is the quintessential
Yeah.
artist. And it was always hard for him to feel like he could be in one box like that.
Yeah.
And he also has such an active mind. And it's something that he's struggled with. Like, why can't I just be normal? Right. Because
Yeah.
we're built, most people, we were raised, especially like in my generation, I'm Gen X, like we were told, like, just stop being so much, right? Like,
Yeah.
just do what you're supposed to do and shut up.
Yeah.
And, especially the Manny Gens have like really, really been hit with that. So it's that alone, like you said, is such a aha moment for people to
Absolutely.
realize, and it gives you this freedom. Like even me as a generator, and to really see, to learn about being an emotional generator. That was really the big one for me. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I can definitely see where I should have waited to get neutral before making that decision. And saying no, because just because I can doesn't mean I should. But that was what I did my whole life. Like, oh, I can do it. I can figure that out because I'm a 2-4. I can figure anything out, right? But like, oh, maybe that's not for me to do. Maybe
Yeah.
does that really feel aligned? No. So I'm not going to do it. And it has become so freeing, really, at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And so I love that now I have like this blend to support it. And I'm excited because I have been using it for a few days. So I will report back
Okay, I'm
after I've been on it for
super
like a few
curious
weeks.
what you're gonna say. My well, I mean, I have a number of banner responses actually. Like there's definitely not just one, but one woman I spoke to who is a projector, she has a podcast, and so I recorded for her podcast after she'd been on it for a couple of weeks, like 2 weeks or something. And she said, "Well, I'll tell you that." it's been pretty dry around here, and all of a sudden the invitations are pouring in. Like that's a thing, you know? And so we kind of laughed about that and it was pretty cool. But she said, "But I'm keeping my skeptical hat on because I want to know how this is going to impact my family dynamics." She said,
Oh,
my husband and my daughter are both manifestors, and it's not easy to be a projector in a house full of manifestors. And I want to know what this is going to do." And after another month, she called me back and said, "Okay, I need to have you on my podcast again because this is amazing." Like she said, I have no explanation for what's happening in my family. Like I'm having conversations with my husband that we've never had in 15 years.
wow.
So that was really cool, you know, and she had been like answering like 8, 9, 10, everything to do with like, you know, bitterness and
Mm-hmm.
withdrawing and whatever it was. And she was down to, you know, in the like 2, 3, 4 afterwards. Like she said, I've been actively deconditioning for 6 or 7 years. It's not like I haven't done this work.
Right. She's not a newbie.
I've been really trying everything I know to get at these pieces. And this is like, it's just dissolved.
Wow. That is so
So
powerful.
it is very powerful and I'm excited about it. And I think I'm excited that anyone can have access to this.
Yeah.
You don't
No,
have
for
to be
sure.
in my secret circle and you don't have to be anybody's client and you don't have to, I mean, obviously it goes very well with coaching. It goes
Sure.
incredibly well with coaching, but it's not a requirement. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
prerequisite for being able to use this. So
Yeah. So fun. Thank you so much for being here and talking to us about I love digging into all of the, both of these topics, but and like melding these and really kind of digging into it and sharing with us. Also Tracy's offering the listeners of the podcast 10% off with the code Dash of Woo. So I'll put that for you guys below so you guys can try it out and see for yourself how it works for you. Thank you so much for being here.
thank you. This was great. I loved it.
Okay, so I hope you guys found that as fun as I did. That was a great, enlightening, interesting conversation I had with Tracy. And I just find her whole journey really cool and very inspiring for many different reasons. So like I said, if you want to try her blends, I'm going to put the link below. She's giving you guys 10% off to try it, and they're inexpensive to begin with. So I'd love to hear from you guys if you do use it, if you what your experience has been. I'm happy to share mine as well. Hit me up over on Instagram at Renee Bowen. And again, if this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, send it to somebody, post about it on social and tag me. Let me know. If you guys have been a fan of the show for a while, you know that I like to leave myself open to talk about whatever I want to talk about, which is why I named the show Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, because sometimes we talk about strategy and sometimes we talk about woo or neuroscience, which is basically what it's rooted in, and maybe a little bit of the unexplained. So I'm really interested to hear your takeaways on some of these things, especially if you've never really delved into it before. Like if this is like your first experience even hearing about some of this stuff, I'd like to know what you have to think about it, because I'm kind of on a mission to challenge the status quo, to, get people to really think deeply, bigger and outside of themselves, so that they can reach their highest potential and be the most them that they can possibly be. That's really what I want. Ultimately, my main purpose is to help you be the most you that you can be, whatever that looks and feels like for you. So I love you guys. Have a great rest of your week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.